while I'll wake up in the morning like, hey, I want to take a walk today. I want to do this. I want to do that. I'll be so bogged down by the anxiety and frustration of not being able to meet the demands of what I'm used to, or at least just doing the things that I'm so used to doing, that I'll stay in bed. Like, and it's not healthy. And I'll feel my body. Like, I don't like the way my body feels right now, but I can't get out of bed, or I don't want to get out of bed, or I want to just stay underneath these covers. So I've been struggling with that, like, getting myself active, just moving. Like it's been a little harder, but I do want to get to a place where I'm able to do that.
This is a Luray Journey podcast on the McKissick Health Podcast Network. I'm Dr. Sherella Cupid, your host.
The Luray Journey podcast is a space for Black women to choose themselves. Welcome back, sisters, sponsors, and supporters of the Luray Journey podcast. For the 4th season, the theme is transitions. We will continue the sister circle conversations with Black women from different stages of life with various personal, community, and professional roles. The intention of this season is to continue and start conversations on the meanings, experiences, and practices around transitions, such as becoming a mom, shifting careers, and establishing a new lifestyle. Thank you for being a part of the Luray Journey community, because Luray means love is real and eternal. So sis, let's practice love. Hey sis, it's a new month, and I want to be sure to tell you our summer pick because time goes by quickly. Our summer pick is Call Out There by Dr. Tahira Chloe Mahdi and Christopher A. Brown. I read this book in 2 sittings. It definitely had me cracking up, and also it made me think about the importance of home, belonging, exploration in order to return to self or remember self, find self, all of the ways in which we explore who we are in the spaces that we occupy as we navigate adulthood. This screenplay is also a platonic comedy, a platon-com, as the authors have stated. And what's more is that this screenplay is currently being produced by the authors to become a hit film coming out this summer. So if you love a book that becomes a movie, a screenplay to film adaptation, so be sure to get your copy by Tahira Chloe Mahdi and Christopher A. Brown. I'm super excited about this pick because the author, my sister doc, Dr. Mahdi, Dr. 99 will be in conversation with us, moderating the talk. So if you also love to be in conversation with multi-hyphenated artists, be sure to go to podcast.mckissickhealth.com and sign up for the Luray Journey newsletter. That way you can get your invitation to the book club, Our Sister Shelf. And if you want to learn more about the sister doc, Dr. Mahdi, you can also check out the 2nd episode of season 3 of the Luray Journey podcast, where I hold conversation with my dear sister doc to explore how she defines love. I'm sure it will give you more insight into how she navigates the space as an artist. Be sure also to support small bookstores by going to bookshop.org. There you can support the bookstores connected to the Luray Journey community, being One Choice or Left on Red. Sis, I hope to see you there. As always, love is real and eternal. In community, peace. So today we're in conversation with Ngeri Nnachi, and it's been a moment since we've had the opportunity to catch up. We've kept in communication via text over the years, so I'm really grateful for this opportunity to catch up with my sis. So Ngeri, can you please introduce yourself in a couple of sentences?
Of course. Thank you. It's so good to be here, sis. So I am Ngeri Nnachi, and a bit about me. I'm a sister. I am an educator. I'm a children's book author, and I am just a community member. Like, I don't know, I'm really bad at talking about myself. But yeah, I'm all of those things, and really just grateful for opportunities to be meaningfully in community with people, and, sharing space, and, loving on one another and affirming one another and doing critical work together.
Thank you, Ngeri.
And speaking about being in community and sharing space, what brings you to the Sister Circle space?
So I come here to see my sis, Sherella, and support her movement of building sisterhood with others and spotlighting sisterhood and the many depths and layers of what it could mean and what it looks like. And also kind of that academic lens a little bit, because you know how we met. But just really kind of existing at that intersection of academia and sisterhood, more so leaning on the sisterhood side. That's kind of what brings me here, just joy and affirmation and sisterhood.
Thank you, sis.
Of
If
course.
you could name this season of your life, what title would you give it and why?
Under construction, help. Yeah, that's it. Under construction, throw a lifeline, help.
Okay. And why have you
Um,
named it under construction help?
so macro level, the world's falling apart. But at my micro level, I'm currently in transition with regard to my community and just trying to kind of figure things out for myself. I had just left a, dream job, honestly, that I really loved, really admired, due to toxic leadership in the workplace. And you know, it's been a healing journey. It's been hard to kind of navigate that loss of that because it was, everything, it was going great. Everything was great. The pay was great. The environment, with regard to the families that I was serving was great. The children that I worked with were great, but it was just that toxic leadership. I say under construction because now I'm trying to pivot to what's next. And I'm somewhat unsure of what's next because I'm trying to also learn to listen to, whatever you call it, the universe, God, who to me is a Black woman, just whatever the message is. So I'm trying to like kind of find clarity around what that is because, for one thing, I don't call things rejections. Like I don't call them like rejection emails or rejection letters. I call them redirection letters and redirection emails. So I feel like I'm being redirected to something. And when it comes to the work that feels most natural to me, it's very meaningful in community. Like I said before, I am a children's book author, excuse me. And I recently had two events that I did around one of my books, and it just felt amazing. Like it was such a great space. The first event was in a school, and I got to work with some kids, and it just felt right. And the second event was in a library, and it just felt right. And shout out to my mentor, Dr. Artika Tyner, who like she always has the vision. There's always that mentor that has the vision and knows exactly what you're supposed to be doing before you know it. So she's one of those people. So like I'm trying to understand the message there because I know that that's the lane, that's the pathway for me, getting more into my educator side, making sure that I'm, just being in spaces where learning is happening actively. But trying to navigate what that road looks like because it's not a clear path. It's not you don't get paid every 2 weeks for that. You're not guaranteed a paycheck for that. So trying to understand like how I can navigate finding stability again and also doing the work that I know feels true to me. So I say under construction because that's like how it feels like uncertainty, but also certainty because I feel like I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but it's overwhelming. It's really overwhelming.
Okay. That's understandable. It's like you know who you are and what you want to do, but the pathway to get there.
Yeah, that's the hard part. And there's no one answer. I don't think there's one answer. There's no guidebook to say do this, do this, do this, and it's all going to work out like this. So kind of just being in this space of learning how to, I guess, drown out the noise and figure it all out. It's a challenge, but it'll, all land where it's supposed to.
I say. So within this season, which you have titled Under Construction, how are you defining love?
Hmm, that is a good one. Um, I think for me, um, so one thing that I've noticed that tends to happen to me, which I'm grateful for, like I will try to throw these little pity parties for myself, where I'm just like, oh, I'm not this and I'm not that, and I don't have this and I don't have that, and there will be some person in my community like that will text me or call me at that time, and I'm just like, dang it. I was really hoping to wallow in this and I can't. They're not letting me. So I'm really grateful for that. And I think for me, love looks like community. Love looks like sisterhood. Love looks like, you know, all of that, meaningfully having community, having people that intentionally love on me and that I'm grateful for, that just seem to want to make sure that I'm okay. So I think that right now, that's what love looks like, having various people show up for me in meaningful ways that I'm so grateful for that I couldn't even thank them enough for.
Yeah, and connected to the point of you saying like someone always reaches out to you in your moment when you want to have that pity party. In your life, are you currently experiencing healing? Like, are you also on a healing journey? You talked about transitioning out of having a dream role position. Are you currently on a healing process in regards to that? Or what does healing look like for you?
So that's the thing. I'm trying to figure it out. So I can't say actively that I am. Um, I haven't been able to sit with it yet because, vulnerability is hard. So I don't mind it. I don't shy away from it. But I think being in a space where unfamiliar space, like it's so unfamiliar right now. Like I'm not used to being this person who doesn't have what I need for myself in the ways that I'm used to having them. I think I'm not actively on it. It's something that's top of mind, and I want to be more intentional, but I just haven't been able to figure out what that looks like yet. So no, not yet. Not even no, not yet.
Yeah. And what do you think is a potential barrier to the, because you said not yet, but you recognize that is something that you want to participate in? So what do you think is a potential barrier? You brought up the word of vulnerability and that being hard. Is that a
Hmm.
potential place?
A little bit, a little bit. I think a little bit of it is not necessarily like not feeling the stability that I'd had before. Like I'm not used to being that person. So it's hard to occupy this space, of, not being employed and not having the money to do whatever I want to do, not just for myself, but for others sometimes. Excuse me, it's been hard to do that. So I've been trying to like kind of scurry and figure out how to kind of fill in the gaps, and that's been hard. So I think that what's that thing? Destination. What do they say? Don't be that person that's destination.
Focus on the destination versus the journey, or
There's a word that I can't think of or a phrase, but like it's hard to not be the person that thinks that I have to be stable to be able to then begin a healing journey, because then, there'll be other things. If once I get a new job, then I have to start doing orientation and stuff. So like I don't know if I'm trying to distract myself. I don't know what it is. But I do. And I think the anxiety around, all the demands of things that I'm not able to fill right now because I don't have the stability that I'm used to. I think that I haven't been able to fully reconcile the reality that I didn't get here as a result of anything that I did. And, you know, then navigating the loss of income, loss of benefits, loss of whatever. So, I don't know what it'll take for me to actually, actually heal. Um, or begin that journey or be more intentional about it. I don't know, but it is top of mind for me. I do check in with myself as frequently as I can just to be like, don't break down, don't break down. But if you need to break down, just know you can, but don't break down. It's weird. So, and it speaks to vulnerability. Like I said, I'm not used to being that person that is super vulnerable or just without the things that I'm used to having. My bad
yeah.
if that's like a roundabout way to say nothing.
No, you said a lot. You said a lot. I think I was having a conversation with someone about just the phrase of earning a living. The fact that in our mind we have been socialized. When I hear the word earn, it sounds very capitalistic. Like I have to earn my personhood, right? And I think because we have been socialized under the idea of, oh, like you get your degree, you'll get your job, and you'll be fine. But for many of us, we're realizing that that's not true. And especially millennials, we've had a lot of hard economic things occur at critical points of transitions, right? The housing crash. Then you have the pandemic for a lot of folks who were graduating during that time. So what did that mean? And now we have this administration and all of the foolery that comes with it and the confusion. So it's it's something that can feel difficult to reconcile with, because
Hmm.
the reality is we do live in this unwell society,
Hmm.
right? So how do we navigate being well when we may be in a period of life when we do not feel well and we don't know how to get there? Because you said the pathway isn't clear.
No, it's not linear at all. Like, I don't think so. There are a bunch of side roads and everything. It's not a straightforward path at all.
Yeah. So I think you said a lot. Even in conversations about vulnerability. Today I was saying I feel as though sometimes when you have to consider like emotional versus physical fatigue, you recognize that emotional fatigue may wear on you more, so you avoid it.
I think that's it. I think that's it. I think that's definitely it. That whole emotional part, like having to try and turn it off because it's hard to say how long you'll stay there. You know what I mean? Like it there's nothing wrong with being emotional, like at all. I'd rather anyone be emotional than hold on to it. Because I do believe that certain ailments and all that could be contributed to by a result of trying to, not be in touch with your emotions that are naturally occurring. But then you make a good point about what the expectations society puts on us, because we're expected to not be emotional in certain places when we're all human and we're all sharing these spaces together. So how would you think that emotions won't show up at work, won't show up in all these other spaces? So I think that you hit on something with that. I think there's something to be said for the emotional side and the fear that comes with, if I show emotions, will I still be accepted in this space? Because I believe I've been told or conditioned to believe that these spaces are not places where emotions should exist.
That's a great question. Yeah, I was reading today an article about Dr. Patricia Hill Collins on Black women and wellness. And she starts off the article asking, and she referenced Salt Eaters, the novel, like, are you sure you want to be well?
Mm,
And then if your answer is yes, then it's also the acknowledgement that you live in an unwell society, that the images that have been placed on Black women, right? So strong Black woman, and the Jezebel, like all of those images that we talk about, we have to navigate those images. Like we didn't like say sign up like, oh yes, that's me, right? We are born into the society that has created those images that we now have to navigate, that oftentimes mutes our emotions to make others comfortable so that we become of service to them.
of course. No, that's definitely it. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about how all those images become representation for us, because that's something that happens to me. Like any space I walk into, anything that I'm interacting with, I want to know where I'm represented. And if those tropes that you're referencing are the only things that look like me, what's that do for my psyche? What's that do for other people's psyche? Like, is this the only way that I'd be acceptable if I fit into one of those tropes? And that's a real thing. We've talked about this, you and I. Like, it's a real thing. It really is. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Like, society has put these or projected these images of what Black women acceptable or whatever acceptable images of Black women should be. And if we don't fit into that, we're at a loss. We are kind of seemingly at a loss for representation if we're not in those tropes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it makes sense, your question about like, how do I approach sitting in the discomfort of being in a new season in life
Hmm.
that you couldn't like you didn't foresee, I would argue. I don't think you would.
No, I didn't.
Right.
No, not at all.
Right.
Not knowing what I know now, the scariest thing for me has been me thinking that I should have just stayed. Like, even though knowing that adverse health outcomes would have come, still thinking, well, at least I'd have been potentially disabled and employed. You know what I mean? Like thinking about that. I probably would have had a medical crisis, but at least I'd be employed. That's what I've been thinking. And it's not fair. I don't want to think that way, but that's kind of what I've been thinking. Like if I'd have stayed, at least I'd have benefits. Yeah, I'd be using them benefits, but I'd have income, and it's hard to think that way. Like you shouldn't have to die in a job, you should not. But it's sad that because of the realities of today, especially with so much uncertainty in the parts of the workforce that we used to consider stable, at least me. I know growing up, I always heard, yeah, you better get with the federal government. You'll never lose your job.
Mm.
And today, like you couldn't have told me 10 years ago that we would see something like what we're seeing or experiencing today. So yeah, no, that's a thing. I couldn't have foreseen it and didn't foresee it. And yeah, it's interesting. I didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah. So the internal conversation that you're having with yourself, like, well, if I would have stayed in it, at least I would have, had income, but at
Mhm.
this, the disservice of your health.
Definitely.
What are you thinking about now in regards to health and wellness? Like, how are you thinking about it now or differently?
Mm, so I think with the anxiety that comes around not like for example, like let's not pretend we don't have monthly bills, and not having the income to cover your monthly bills comes with a lot of anxiety. So while I'll wake up in the morning like, hey, I want to take a walk today. I want to do this. I want to do that. I'll be so bogged down by the anxiety and frustration of not being able to meet the demands of what I'm used to, or at least just doing the things that I'm so used to doing, that I'll stay in bed. Like, and it's not healthy. And I'll feel my body. Like, I don't like the way my body feels right now, but I can't get out of bed, or I don't want to get out of bed, or I want to just stay underneath these covers. So I've been struggling with that, like, getting myself active, just moving. Like it's been a little harder, but I do want to get to a place where I'm able to do that. I am looking forward to the better weather because once the better weather is here, I can't excuse like, oh, it's too cold. At least I can't say that. So, while I don't want to wait until end of April to start getting my walks in again, I at least I'm mindful. Like, mindfulness is like a fraction of it. It's really when you get yourself out the door. So I can't say that I'm in the best place or an ideal place when it comes to thinking about my health and wellness, but um, I am mindful and I'm grateful for, accountability partners who, like, for example, I have my Apple Watch and I have different friends on there. So when they move, I can see it like, okay, that's good. They moving. Maybe I can move too. So I am grateful for those opportunities where, that type of thing will happen. It'll make me want to at least go take the stairs, do something, do a little bit of moving that I can do. So yeah, my health and wellness is not the best right now, and it's not in a place that or the place that I would like for it to be, but it'll get there. It'll get there. I know it'll get there. And I have everything it takes, for myself to push myself to do it. I just need to get out of my own way. I think a lot of this is me getting out of my own way.
Okay. Okay. But I also think you're going through a grieving process and you're mourning. And I think that's okay too.
Yes, thank you. Yes, definitely morning. Like I had so many expectations and so many things that I wanted to do. And I also don't like that I'm attaching myself to that role because that's not how it's supposed to be. But because I'm so community focused and community oriented, because it served that for me, like gave me, that space in a very beautiful and unique way. I can't separate myself from it and I have to. I'm not that anymore. But it's been hard to wrap my head around that. Like, man, I miss that. I was able to do this, and this, and look forward to this, and this. And you're right. I am grieving that that's not the case. And it was so abrupt too. Like, man, like for me, and the thing is, I mean, I had time to prepare mentally and all that, but people on the other end of it who didn't know that that was my last day at work, I feel so bad because I'm not used to leaving, things like that. I don't leave things open-ended like that. I am still in touch with a lot of the people that, I was very close to, but, not seeing them every day is different. And, not, seeing the kids every day is different. But I'm just grateful that I'm still in touch with a lot of people. So I'm hoping to, as I hopefully get myself back to some type of wellness and some type of, status quo for myself or standard for myself, that I can get back into that. I'm hoping really to get back into it somehow.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And I believe like you said, it's something that's not linear, something that's not like, let's check this off the box,
Mhm.
right? So I believe that you can create new spaces within that community that you are part of for yourself and of course for the community members since you already have that established relationship. So that is something that I would uplift to you because I don't know, I guess it's going on a decade now that we know each other, which feels wild.
Really? What? Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
17, 2017. Wow. Okay.
Okay, yeah, okay,
We're
yeah.
getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah. So I've
Wow.
always known you to be in spaces of Black children's joy. If I go on your social media, you're often uplifting someone that you're proud of. So if someone was to ask me, oh, like, where can I find out about like Black youth representation and joy? I'm like, go ahead, talk to Ngeri. Like, that's her, right? So
Thank
I
you.
feel
Thank
as
you.
though because that is you, whatever you do, you would embody that without whatever role or title because that's who you are. Like that's a part of your identity.
Thank you. Thank
Right.
you for that. That means a lot to me because I'm telling you, like I love us. I love our children, especially not over anyone else, but because, you know, Emmett didn't get past 14. Tamir didn't get past 12. You know, too many kids don't get to grow old, you know. Too many kids don't get that honor and privilege of growing old. So I take it upon myself to help make sure any time they do have is spent having fun and learning and making learning fun and just not having a care in the world. That's one thing that's very big for me, especially for Black children. you know the demands of the world are too much. And for too many generationally, years ago, people make that question like, oh, is it fair that kids should learn about racism or whatever? Black children didn't have that luxury, getting spit on, walking to school and stuff. Like what? So in any space that I'm in, I want to make sure that it's safe and it's fun and it's happy and it's joyful for Black children because you also never know what they may be going at, have going on at home. And it's not to say that, some people's homes can't be or aren't safe, but we know what the demands of the world look like. Some parents, it's hard to cope. It is hard to cope. For me in this space now, navigating not having the funds or resources that I'm used to, I can't imagine, for someone else who maybe have children. Even that's one thing. I don't even have kids. I'm struggling on my own. For someone that may have children, I cannot imagine what it's like to not necessarily know when your next source of income is coming. And it's not just your mouth you're worrying about. You're worrying about someone else. So anytime any Black child is in my space or in, I think they're all mine. These are all my babies. But I want to make sure that they don't have a care in the world. That's a big thing for me. I don't want kids to worry about anything. Like, no, that let the adults worry. That's not your thing. But I make sure that they're learning and loving and experiencing joy and dreaming. Like I don't know if I have it on. I think I do. D for dream. Is this D for dream? It should be. Like I would wear these earrings every day for the kids too. Because I always wanted to have a message every day for them. And they were under 5, but still you could read, you could see letters, you could process. So I would talk to them about what they were looking at, and I just let them know like I want you to dream. Like I need you to dream, even if they didn't know what I was saying. They needed to hear that. So that's really big for me. Like Black children seeing themselves in the future, seeing what they want to do in the future, imagining themselves in the future. I really am just trying to do my part in making sure that they foster dreams, and know that tomorrow is coming for them, or at least imagine that tomorrow is coming for them because for too many Black children, tomorrow doesn't come.
Mm. Beautifully said. And
Thank
that is something that I admire about you. Like when I see Black joy and Black freedom, I'm often seeing the images that Ngeri posts or the reflections that you share. So in thinking about Black freedom, Black joy for our youth, can you share a little bit more about what led you to write children's books?
Sure. So, and thank you for that question. My mentor that I mentioned, Dr. Atika Tyner, she's like just the best. I mean, you and I both, Dr. Moffitt, we both have her and we just know what it means. And that's the thing, like Black women mentorship, there's nothing like it. Like when there is a Black woman that comes into your life and can see your promise and can see, your gifts and your talents and want probably more for you than you want for yourself. That's a hard one to navigate too, because Dr. Tyner, like, I feel so bad for her because I know that she's looking at me like, girl, get it together. Like you have this skill and that skill, you're not using it, you're sitting on it. And I feel so bad because I'm like, she's right, but it's overwhelming, So I say that to say like she's the one who got me into writing children's books. My first children's book was on Madam C.J. Walker, and it was so fun to learn about her. Like I'm still hoping to get to Indiana to go, kind of walk the perimeter of the space where her there is a what is it, like community center there now, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the space where she had her manufacturing company, back in like 20 something, 30 something, back then. But I really just want to kind of go to that space. So Dr. Tyner got me into writing children's books. And since then, I've written 9, and I'm currently working on 2 with her. But like, just it's so fun. And it's so fun to meet kids who are excited that I'm an author. Cause like, for me, like I'm not going to say it's not a big deal, but I don't really think about it. So like when I go to a school and the kids are like so bright-eyed and so excited, I'm just like, oh, I guess it is exciting, for them. And it is exciting for me to encounter them, like even the event that I had this earlier this year that I told you about, I'm sorry, earlier this month, I was signing books, and like so many of the kids were so excited that I was signing for them. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't, just wrap my head around that excitement. But I do understand, how important it is for them to see me. That was a big thing, and for them to understand that they can put pen to paper too, and you know just even giving them opportunities to do that. I'm very grateful to be on the board of Dr. Tyner's nonprofit. That I'm one of the founding board members. We started in 2015, Planning People Growing Justice Leadership Institute. Like we publish books for kids. Like they write them. They write these books. They're using their story. They're telling their stories. They're using their mouths and their thoughts and their imaginations. And I love it so much. Like I'm so grateful to be able to encounter kids that have that power. To know that they have that agency. Like you don't need to rely on anyone else's voice. Your voice is more than enough. And I get really, really excited about that. So whenever I encounter these children who are so excited, like it fills me with excitement too, because I don't, I can't even say that when I was younger, I really thought about books so intentionally. So it's just it's excitement. It's like it's a loop, a feedback loop of excitement, and I'm very excited every time I encounter a child who just you know, even freedom schools. I did one of the freedom school readings last summer. And it was just so exciting. And the kids were just so excited, like, you read that, you wrote that book. And I'm just like, yeah, like not really understanding how big it is for them, to meet someone who wrote a book. And one thing that it means a lot to me too is like having my name on there. My name doesn't, you can't share a Coke with Ngeri. Like you can't, remember them little license plates you get at the souvenir shops? Those aren't there either. So like
Right,
for me,
right.
I'm like for kids whose names command more of the tongue than usual, I'm excited that they get to see my name. One thing I'm noticing, I can't guarantee they're saying it right. So I got to figure that part out. I'm like, dang, they might be butchering my name, but at least they're seeing it, and I'm excited about that. Like they're little kids who will see a name that's different, like theirs, and be excited that someone with a different name, a unique name, or whatever have you, can write a book that should open up a door or open up their imagination for them to know they can do the same thing.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're becoming what you want Black children to practice, which is Black imagination,
Yes.
Black futures,
Yeah.
right? The fact that you say you're in spaces because you want to help to guarantee that Black children get to exist in freedom and not have to worry about adults'
Yes.
responsibilities and ideas. So I
Yeah.
think the fact that you are creating children's books helps them to see like, oh, I too, like you said, they have their voice that they can use it, right? And in the book, in my book club, our sister shelf, we were talking about how do we pass on legacy
Mhm.
and the different ways to like rethink legacy. Because we often think about legacy as like, what am I passing on to my children and my grandchildren? But for us to be mindful that artists are doing legacy work. So the fact that you are an author, you are doing legacy work, right?
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
think that's beautiful that you exist in a space where you're doing what you want these babies to do. And I think that's probably why they're like, oh, wow, like I see it. You're here.
Yeah.
This episode of the Lorraine Journey podcast is sponsored by Left on Red. Left on Red, founded by Dr. Latasha Ely Kelly, is a specialty bookstore and cultural space rooted in the mission to amplify representation, cultivate perspective, and empower community. With a focus on titles by Black authors and works of African American interests, the curated collection spans a range of genres and lived experiences, alongside thoughtfully selected stationery, keepsakes, and collectibles that reflect Black culture. Left on Red also hosts events, workshops, and programs that connect literature to everyday life, learning, and well-being. As the home of the Millennial Black Professor and TMBP Media, Left on Red expands beyond the page through podcasting, storytelling, and creative media initiatives that honor underrepresented narratives and foster meaningful dialogue. This space exists to serve, support, and shift, offering both inspiration and intention for anyone seeking reflection, knowledge, and community. You can support Left on Red by visiting leftonredbooks.com. Again, that's leftonredbooks.com, or visiting the bookstore in Wichita, Kansas. Again, thank you, Left on Red, for sponsoring the Lorraine Journey podcast.
So,
Thank you.
yes, so I'm excited. So, you definitely have to let us know once you publish the next two books. Maybe we can do some type of event or something. So,
I will.
definitely keep us posted in regards to that.
Thank
You
you.
brought up a great point that I want to circle back to, and the fact that you have accountability partners, accountability friends, and thinking about your sister circles, how are they helping you navigate this season?
My goodness, like they show up for me in ways that I couldn't even imagine. Like, and the thing is, like, you know how you know you got to cry in you that you got to get out. I do have one of those big, like, sobbing cries. I got to get out. I'm probably got to find like a sad movie or something. I don't know.
Okay.
They got to unlock it, but like it's that like I'm just so grateful. Like one part that means so much to me, so it's been so overwhelming, like applying to so many jobs every day and changing the cover letter and changing the resume. Like it's a lot, and I'm not saying it's impossible because I know there are people who are out here doing so much more than me, doing 100 a day, doing so many, like doing a whole lot. I'm not going to diminish the fact that it's not impossible. But two of my sisters in particular have dedicated their time to helping me, apply to jobs. Like they are helping redo my resumes. They are writing cover letters for me. One of them is a new mom. So I'm looking like, how do you have time to do this? But I'm just grateful because, I'm just grateful for her because she knows how, hard it's been for me. And I can't even imagine, like she has, aside from herself, she has a whole child, a newborn, not even 6 months yet, that she's navigating, new motherhood. This is her first child. And the fact that she's really taking some of the time in her day to write things for me, like the selflessness, I can't even imagine, and then another one of my sisters, same thing, and both of them sending me money, that's it's hard. It's hard to be on this end of this end of things where people have to help me, but I'm very, very, very grateful for all of my sisters. One, shoot, buying me groceries. Like she goes to the grocery store and she gets, her family's groceries and she'll get me, some too. And I'm just like, man, like what did I do to get these amazing sisters? I'm just really grateful for them. It's things like that that I don't even have the words for. Like I'm really, really grateful. So that's why those pity parties, I tried not to, because you really just want to feel bad about yourself and get low, but people don't let you. So I'm really, really grateful for my sisters. Like just can't even, I don't even have the words really. I'm just really grateful for them.
Thank you for sharing that. I love the ways
Of
in which we show up to fill the gaps.
course, of course.
And sometimes without even asking, like someone is in need, and if they're in your community that you step in. So I'm grateful that you have those sisters that are stepping in during this season.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, so grateful for them.
Yeah. One thing I also admire that I want to discuss a little bit more deeply, you uplifted that you currently do not have children that you're legally obligated, right, to care for,
Mm-hmm.
but you are an aunt.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that experience like of being an aunt?
Um, to me, it's like a form of motherhood, another form of motherhood. Like I'm grateful for my biological nieces and nephews and then my non-biological nieces and nephews because they're just so, like I just got really blessed. I mean, I don't honestly don't think they're like bad children out there. You know what I mean? There may be kids that are misguided or kids that weren't, intentionally loved on in certain ways, but I don't think they're bad children out there. Because there's some kids who do some things and you looking like what's going on, but it's not them. They're acting out or they're, reflecting what's been poured into them or whatever. But I'm just grateful with all the children that I consider my babies. They're just great kids and they're fun kids and they're free kids and that's my biggest thing. Like, I always want to make sure, and that's another reason why it's hard for me to be in this position right now, because for a lot of the kids, I like to be able to help them do things that they, may not be able to do or think to do or have them help them have experiences that they may not usually have. So to be so constrained right now when it comes to finances, I'm not able to kind of provide some of those avenues or spaces for a lot of the kids that I love. But it's so fun. Like I love it. Like I always tell myself, if I never get to have my own kids, I'm so grateful that I've had, this niece and that nephew and this person and that person, because I'm, just grateful that their parents consider me such a vital part of their village and I'm able to be so hands-on with them. Like for example, my goddaughter, my first goddaughter, because I now have a second goddaughter. I'm very grateful. My first goddaughter, I taught her to read really early, like because I don't play about literacy with kids. So I would start reading to her in her mom's belly, and her mom used to get annoyed sometimes. I'm like, girl, get on my, I'm not talking to you. Like I'm talking to my little baby. So when she came out, world side, I started doing like, those foam letters on the ground or whatever. When she was younger, I don't care. She had eyes, she had ears, she could hear, we're doing the letters. So people would laugh at me. Her grandmother on her father's side would be laughing. She don't know what you're saying or whatever. And then even my sister, my sis, her friend on one of her friends, she's like, oh, it's too early. And I'm just like, I don't care what y'all are saying. She can hear me and she's fine. So she started reading that too because we started early. Like, why not? There's no downside to doing so. If my thing is, I don't ever want a kid to feel pressure of, being such a great student, from jump, but kids when they're between 0 to 5, it's such a critical time. They're soaking up everything. Why not? Why not? Why not? They're doing is sitting, they're not in school yet. So why not? And make it fun. That's the thing. Like I made it fun every time. Like we go somewhere, we go to the park or I take her out and we're learning as we're doing these things. Like it's not like class, like you don't have to sit at the desk and all that stuff, but we're making it fun. And I bring that up because she just got into the tag program. And I'm like, I know that's right. That's what I'm talking about. Why not? She's a smart little girl. And I'm very big on, asking her certain questions and making sure she knows she can ask me questions or ask anybody questions, always use, yeah, like I'm so grateful for them. Like even the kids that because I used to work in a daycare and a lot of those children are all in college now. And even like, our mutual, Dr. Moffat, her kids are in college now. And I'm just, I used to babysit those kids. Like I'm so proud. So I'm just really grateful for, parents and families that, allow me to be their plus one and be their children's auntie or whatever you want to call it. But I'm just really grateful for access to such great kids who ask such great questions. And I'm grateful that they know that they can. Because growing up for me, my mom was always very big on making sure I knew I could talk and say whatever I wanted, but every space wasn't that safe, and my every parent wasn't that safe, So I'm grateful to be in spaces where kids have that safety to ask questions, because how else do you learn but to ask questions? So I'm very big on every child in my care knowing they can ask questions because that's how you learn. Um, so I'm grateful to kind of be a part of so many different villages where kids get to just foster learning and have fun. Like I try my best to be at the intersection of fun and learning. Like recently with my goddaughter, my first goddaughter, I like she got into the tag program and for me, I'm like, all right, now we got to get it together, like she already had it together. She does, and I'm very proud. But I'm like, okay, it's a different level now, this is serious, it's school and it's a certain level of school. And I have such high standards for her. And I'm a little nervous and I might be pushing her a little bit sometimes. So I did ask her, I was like, hey, like, if I'm ever pushing you too much, can you let me know? Like, can you let me know if it's not fun? And she was like, I will. I'm like, are you sure? Because I know I can tell that she wants to impress me or she wants me to, just always be, not just proud of her, but she always wants to meet my standard or meet my threshold. And I'm trying to find the balance between her doing that, but making sure she can still have fun. So I try my best to not always make it playtime. I mean, not always, yeah, playtime or work time, because I want to find some type of balance myself because I try not to project stuff, but I just want one of my kids to go to college before 16. Like, I mean, like I want one kid, just one, please. Like, and the thing is, I know it's a lot of pressure, but like I tell them, I'm just like, imagine the gap year you could get if you get to college early and get to go to college at like, just the gap year. Like I want them to, and I know it sounds horrible. I know it sounds so bad because these aren't my own children. Any children I do have, I do hope to not project this on them. But you see those stories of kids, they went to college at 14. I'm just like, see, it's not impossible. Why can't any kid I know do that? But I'm trying not to put too much pressure on them because at the end of the day, I do want kids to have fun and experience joy, but I want them to do both because, I mean, not saying that like academia is the only place where, excellence can shine, but I do like or love or appreciate opportunities for kids to have access. In those academic spaces, there's a lot of access that you get to certain networks and certain experiences. And I want every child that I'm connected to have that. You and I think we've talked about study abroad. I want every kid I know to study abroad and not just have to, you know, scrounge around for money to do that. I want them to be in spaces where that's the norm. It's paid for. Like I want them to live that life of paid for. And a lot of that tends to be tied to certain academic experiences. And I want every child that I'm connected to have that. So I think that's really what fuels it, like wanting them to, because I never studied abroad. I wish I could, and yeah, I just want every kid that I'm connected to have access to all those things. Like, I want them to have fun and learn different languages. Like, that's a big thing for me and, certain kids or all the kids that, in my space is that they can learn another language. I would love that. Like, growing up, I was trilingual. I spoke Spanish, Igbo, and English. And when I started school, once I came home, I started responding only in English. So now I still understand Igbo and I understand a little bit of my Spanish, but I lost it. And I feel bad about that. And because imagine, the world opens up to you differently when you can speak different languages. So every child that I'm, connected to, I would love for them to have that type of access because it's an accessibility thing. You're able to access so much more when you speak the language of the space that you're in. So I think that's it. So I feel bad for the kids in my life, but I really want them to experience certain things. And I don't want money to be a barrier because that tends to be the case for a lot of us. And I don't want that to be a thing. I want them to live a life of it's paid because your excellence got you here. And I mean, of course, you got inherent excellence. You do. But academically, you've got that rigor that people are looking for that they're willing to invest. And it's unfortunate that it's one of those things where it's that exchange, but I just want them to experience those things. So, yeah, that's what the other mothering that I'm able to do, that's where it sits. I want them to experience the world. I want them to know the world is so much more than just our little space. Like there's so much world out there. And I want them to experience that. I want them to get on planes and go places. I even want them to know, other sides of their own state, like I want kids to be able to experience different things and encounter different people and see themselves there. That's the other thing too. Like I want them to know that they can go anywhere they want. Like you shouldn't, because I know that happens to me sometimes. I'll be somewhere like, this is a little white place. I don't want to be here. But I want any kid that's in my, community or whatever have you know that they can be anywhere. You want to be there, you're going to be there. And I'll go with you. But I don't want them to know limitation. I want them to know access. I want them to know accessibility. I want them to know the power of space, the power of community, and in other places. So yeah, that's what other mothering means to me and what it means to me to be an auntie. My oldest, my youngest niece is at Hopkins right now. And I'm so proud, like so proud because, people tend to think affirmative action. That's my girl's there on academics. She's been there. She's been that girl. She's been that smart. And then my nephew's at VSU, graduating this year. Like I'm just so proud of them. And, grateful to just have access to such amazing kids. Like I said, like they're so great, all of them. Like I used to nanny as well. The little boy that I used to nanny, he is 15 now and just an amazing kid. Like, some of the teens think a little funny, they don't really want to be around you. And, you sometimes be looking like, I don't know if I want to be around you right now because you are you're speaking a language I don't know. That's the thing these days. They speak in like acronyms. And I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is. Like you got to use the words, So, but the one thing I bring that up because I'm very grateful that every child that I am connected to didn't abandon me in their teenage years. Like
Okay.
I'm very grateful for that because I know it can happen. And I
Testament.
wouldn't have blamed them exactly because that means I'm old or whatever. So I'm grateful that I can still have conversations, like real conversations with every kid in my life because we have that bond. And I don't take it for granted either because I know there's so many things they're navigating. When you and I were younger, social media wasn't really a thing. We didn't have to compete with social media, and the so many things that people are competing with these days, and competing for likes and competing for blue checks and all that stuff. Like we didn't have that, so it was people always say it was simpler for us. I do think in that respect, it was much simpler for us. So I bring that up because I'm just grateful that in all of that, the kids that I'm connected to still keep in contact with me and still communicate with me because I know I'm competing with a lot. I know
Mm.
there's a lot of competition, but I'm very grateful that I can even call them or just text them, check on them, see how they're doing, and they actually respond. Because a lot of kids like to leave people on read these days, but I'm grateful, very grateful that my babies respond. It may take a day or two for some of them, and I understand because my nephew's at HBCU, and I know there's a lot going on. So cool. If it takes 2 days, I just need proof of life sometimes, and he honors that, and I'm very grateful.
Yes. Yes. Yes, I agree. Teenage years are definitely different.
Yes.
And they are competing with a lot, way more distractions compared to when we were coming up. Like I don't envy kids growing up in
Not at
this
all.
era. Not at
Not
all.
at all. No, not
So
at all.
I definitely agree with those sentiments. And with that, you brought up a great point in regards to your first goddaughter of wanting to find the balance
Hmm.
of having fun and also meeting expectations. So within that thought, what would you say you're learning about yourself as an auntie?
Ooh, that is a good question. I'm learning that I don't think I've done a good enough job of adapting to what fun looks like for kids today. They're tablet kids. And in my head, I'm like, screen time, you're gonna mess up your eyes, you're gonna do this, you do that. Not thinking like, I guess that's what this generation does, like everybody doesn't, but my goddaughter, she does like to draw, and I appreciate that. That girl will draw to mess on anything, and you got to take it every time. And I take it every time, and I actually keep them, I keep them. But I think that like a lot of what they do is so tech, and I'm not used to that. Like, I know for us, we got our first cell phones at what, like 12 or something,
Mhm.
11, 12. But, kids these days don't have house phones like we did. So everything is phone for them. Everything is iPad for them. So I think I'm old school in that way where I'm not there yet to understand. Because even like thinking about whenever I have my own children, if I do, which I hope to, thinking like, I don't want screens to be a standard because they weren't a standard for me, but the world is moving in that direction. Like I probably won't have the luxury of that. You know what I mean? So I think that I'm learning that about myself. Like, dang, I think I'm young, but I'm not. I'm a little old sometimes. I'm a little old sometimes because I think about that. Like, you don't want to be that person like when I was growing up, but I am because I'm looking
It's
like, why are
really
you
when
on
we were
that
growing
phone?
up now.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. I'm looking like, why are you on that tablet? Read a book. But books are on the tablet. So what am I talking about? So I think that like I'm not as progressive in that respect as I would like to think I am because, we cherish our childhoods and think about the things that we found fun and have fun memories around. And we can't always apply them to the next generation because their standards are different and what they have access to is different. And I know that every generation has that. So I guess that's what I've been experiencing that like, dang, I'm old, getting old. I think that's what I'm learning that, yeah, I'm getting up there. You got to scroll past 2000 now to say your birthday. So I know.
Listen.
I know, I know. I'm getting a little up there, getting a little up there.
Yeah, okay, but it's a blessing. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful adage in regards to the transitions of play
Hmm.
because kids don't play the same. Like we went
I know.
outside to play, right? And now, like you said, they're on the devices to play, whether or not
Hmm.
that's whatever gaming system, they can hang out with their friends virtually. So the
Hmm.
access to the outdoors, it's just not the same.
It's
So
not.
yeah. If someone was interested in becoming a children's author, what advice would you give them?
So I would say, so my path was different in the sense that I worked directly with the publisher. Like they sent the topics to me and I wrote them. So if someone had, like, say they wanted to self-publish, I would say definitely look up different publishers, see what deals you could work out with them. There are a lot of smaller publishers. There's some Black-owned publishers. I would definitely just, find them. Um, do the research to find just, different publishers around you, different editors around you, different networks, having writing partners, which you taught me very well with the sister circles that we had. It helps to have other people around you to help kind of push you along as you're writing. I would definitely say tap into to that. And just write, like get it on paper. Like I said, I'm working on two books and I don't want to tell you how long I've been working on those two books. But yeah, no, just write, always write, and just find your people, find your tribe of writers, find your writers retreats, find, your editors, find your publishers, find people who are in that space to help motivate you to get the stuff done.
Thank you. Do
Of
you
course.
see yourself ever venture into adolescence novels?
No.
Not the teens.
Yeah, no, no. My imagination
Not the
doesn't,
acronyms.
yeah, no, no, not even that. My imagination isn't that, it doesn't go that way. I wish it did. I've never thought about it. So thank you for posing that question. But I've never thought about it. I have friends who are such great writers in that way that I would always just be like, yeah, they got it. I want to read their book. So no, I've never really thought about it because I don't think I have that imagination. I don't know. I don't think I do. I have that teacher imagination. Madam T.J. Walker, cool. I'm gonna write a book on her and I'm gonna learn as much as I can. But when it comes to like the imaginative stuff, I don't think my mind works that way.
Okay, valid. And thinking about you transitioning to a next career, what are you envisioning? Like, what are you calling in?
So I'm trying to call in everything. So I am taking the bar in July. Never really tell people that, but yeah, I'm taking the bar in July.
You want
And
us to take that part out?
no, 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 no. I'm
Oh,
okay.
okay.
No, I'm okay. Because it's part of vulnerability. If it goes the way I want, great. If it doesn't, hey, you try again. But no, so you can keep it. But yeah, I finally feel ready to take it and figure out what that pathway looks like for me. But then again, as you know, I got to finish that PhD too. So I want to do both of those things this year. I'm tired of being a student. I'm tired of, not being this. So yeah, I'm ready to figure out those two things. But in the same vein, figure out what my pathway with regard to education looks like. Because I'm grateful, like I said, I'm grateful for friends and sisters who are always on me like, hey, you are meant to do this. And I know it because I've seen you do this. And I'm grateful for them because they kind of keep me on it. Because it's easy to get overwhelmed, like, that seems like such a big task. Are you sure I can do that? I don't know. But like I'm grateful for people who are always there to remind me that look, your skills and your talents are XYZ and I know you can do it. So, let me know how I can help. So I'm really, really grateful for that. So as I think about this next phase, like I said, it's the bar, it's the PhD, and then it's also my educator hat, trying to figure out exactly what that looks like when it comes to like my books, for example. Right now, I'm building out different curriculums for my books because I told you about those two events that I had that just went phenomenal. Like I love, and we've talked about this. I love being in spaces where learning is happening. I love watching people's faces as the dots are connecting. I love watching, kids and adults. I love as, people are listening to something and, they do that nod and they look up and they're like, and you're like, yes, something's clicking. I love it. And I'm excited to figure out ways to foster that for myself, even if it's not necessarily being like a traditional professor, just being in spaces where learning can exist and people can ask certain thoughtful questions or, take something and imagine it as something else. I'm really looking forward to figuring out ways to build that out. So, yeah, as I'm under construction, I know that's part of what's leading the way, figuring out what it looks like for me to be an educator, in a not necessarily traditional way. That's been kind of the hardest part. Like, you know, knowing I'm an educator and I educate people, but I don't have that certain credential. And I'm looking like I got this credential, that credential. You can't take that, like that's been the hardest part. But knowing that it's possible, I did a whole community event in the library, my book, and it happened. There was education happening. I've done it. I do it, and figuring out how to I guess, encourage myself to challenge certain spaces that say, well, you don't have the credential. I'll be like, all right, well, let's talk about it because I've done it, and figuring out how to bolster myself and put myself strategically in those spaces. So I'm excited to figure that out after I get out of my own way, and just kind of figure out what it means to create my own lane because I know that my lane is not linear. I know that my lane is not one thing. I know that it's a multitude of things, and I'm just figuring out how to craft it and kind of rein it all in. I think that's what it's daunting, but I know that I can do it. I can't because, like I said, I've got just a great community of people that are supporting me, and I can't let them down. I shouldn't let them down.
Thank you. I'm excited to see the process.
Thank you.
I'm always down for a writing session.
Thank you.
So
Yes.
definitely keep me posted.
Thank you. I will. I will. I will. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So you uplifted a lot of primary roles. You start off saying your sister, a daughter, an educator, a curriculum developer, an author. So, in thinking about your primary roles, what's a reminder to yourself to circle back to feel grounded?
Hmm. Now that you say that, I think about my two goddaughters and like wanting wanting them to be inspired by something that I've done, wanting them to see the world as much bigger than what is set out for them. And I'm not saying that they're limited or anything, but I want I want to be a part of what makes the world bigger for them. So that's something, one thing that I do for my older goddaughter that I started years ago when she was younger. There's a book that I have that I've been writing letters to her, since she was born, for her to read in the future. So I think about for grounding, like what are some letters that what are some things, the contents of some of those letters that I want? What do I want? I want to be able to tell her that I passed the bar. I want to be able to tell her, at least, she'll be there. I want her to be there when that happens. I want her to be, and I want to be able to write about that. So I think that's a big part of what grounds me, and not just my goddaughters, like my niece and nephew. They are, I have two nieces, two older nieces and a nephew. Them too, like I know there were a lot of things when I was younger, that other peers, peers be doing. Of course, I was never someone that was, into peer pressure, but I would just always think, what would my niece or nephew think if I get caught up in this mess and I got to look them in the face and tell them X, Y, Z? Absolutely not. So it's like the kid, for real, the kids in my life, like I want to do things for them, and make sure that they are proud of me and make sure that that I honor them. They're important to me and I want to always be there for them and make certain decisions that make sure that I'm there for them. So it really is, the motivation of being accessible and being around to inspire the children in my life.
Thank you.
Of course.
This Sister Circle community is named Luray Journey, with Luray meaning love is real and eternal. What is your understanding of love being real and eternal?
Hmm. That is a great question. My understanding of love being real and eternal is like, I think it's the things that you don't have words for. Like you see it and you see love, you experience love in so many ways, and sometimes you just don't have the words for it. Sometimes it's that, the random tears that come to your eyes or, that lump in your throat that comes, you're just like, what's going on? But it's love in some form or fashion. I think that there's some form of love happening or something that is, that's taken over, your emotions. So my understanding is just, it's there, and there may not be words, but the feeling is there, the emotion is there, the sense of vulnerability that you get from it is there, that discomfort that you get because you don't feel in control is there. So that's what it means for me to just, you just don't have the words sometimes. You just have that feeling where you just know that there's love or something caring for you, something keeping you there. Some people think, it's the prayers of our ancestors, it's the prayers of our grandmothers. There's something there that is keeping you afloat, keeping you going, keeping you inspired, keeping you uplifted. And I think that that's what that means for me.
So you mentioned that you recently had 2 events for your books. Can you share when to expect the books, or where folks can find the books that you've already published, and what other services do you offer? So do you offer curriculum development? Are you a consultant for event planning for children events? Can you share what projects and services that you offer?
Of course. Yes. Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to spotlight my website that I'm very proud of. I don't know if you've seen it yet. I got to show it to
It's
you.
gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so proud of it. Like, I needed it to represent me, and every person that sees it, I'm like, does it represent me? Because I really wanted it to. But yeah, you can find my work and everything that I have to offer at my website, www.nnachi.com. And I'm working on building curriculums right now. So those are not available yet, but my books are all there. All 9 are there. Okay, thank you. So on Instagram, you can find me and I'm gonna have to say this because I remember some people were trying to clown me because they thought that I couldn't spell. It's intentionally spelled Nubian Excellency with a capital C, but on Instagram, it's all lowercase. So you can't tell that it was supposed to be a capital C. So it's Nubian Excellency with just a capital C, but you can't tell. Because some people are like, oh, she can't even spell. I spelled excellence that way on purpose because it's supposed to be excellency. So that is my Instagram handle, Nubian Excellency with no E on the end. Like, that's it. It could look confusing, but it was intentional. I can spell. Thank you very much. So yeah, my Instagram, X, I don't really use like that. I know I probably shouldn't be on there, but yeah, Instagram is Nubian Excellence. Nubian Excellence with no E. Let's say it that way because it's easier that way. But yeah, my Instagram is probably the best place to find me.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate this vulnerable conversation. I think
thank
you are
you.
very vulnerable
Thank you so much.
as you are transitioning to the next career title, but I would offer that, like you said, you do a lot when thinking about childhood development
Thank
and
you.
practicing Black joy and Black freedom for our children. So yeah, I love what you do. I appreciate what you do. I'm definitely going to check out your website in regards to the books. I just remember seeing the launch and thinking, oh, this color scheme is definitely in Gary. So I'm
Thank you. Thank
excited
you.
to
Thank
circle
you. Thank
back to
you.
it.
Thank
Yes, of
you.
course. Thank you
I,
again, sis, for
of course,
sharing your
sis.
journey
Thank you.
and reflections on love and transition during this season. Thank you, sisters, supporters, and sponsors for listening. And as always, love is real and eternal. In community, peace.
Hey, Luray Journey Community Supporter. You can follow the community by following the handle at Luray Journey on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Also, be sure to leave comments on Spotify, YouTube, and follow wherever you're listening or watching the podcast. For those who are part of the book club or love to discuss books and movies, you can follow me at Sherella Cupid on the Fable app. Lastly, you can go to podcast.mckizickel.com to sign up for the newsletter. There, you'll receive updates such as new episode drops, events, and so much more. Again, go to podcast.mckizickel.com. And as always, love is real and eternal. In community, peace.